Hey everyone, welcome to a live episode of Visual Studio Toolbox. I'm one of your hosts, Leslie Richardson.
And I'm the other host, Robert Green.
Cool. And if you're here today, that's probably because you want to learn about all the cool stuff that recently just hit Visual Studio and the brand new 17.14 GA release. Super exciting. Just in
Yeah,
time for Bill.
that released yesterday, and we're having a release party.
Yay, party.
We used to call these what's new in, but I like the party idea better. Let's throw a party.
I know. We need to get some more gifts that have like confetti and streamers and stuff.
Oh, I
I
thought you
like.
said gifts, like gifts for the
Oh
host.
no, gifts.
I'd be in
Yeah.
favor of that. Yes.
I don't say Jif, that's the peanut butter. Awesome. So, yeah, I'm really excited. We're going to talk about a lot of the major features that have hit 17.14, including, of course, Copilot space, among other cool things in the C++. Wow, I cannot talk today. C++ space. And some other cool miscellaneous things. But if you haven't already, first action that everybody watching should take if you haven't done it is to download the latest update. Like, this gets you access to everything that we're about to talk about and then some. So all you got to do is hit install. But if you want to get like a general overview of everything new that's been introduced in 17.14 all up, so in the previews as well, but especially in GA, you can check them out via the release notes. So
That's right. And that's the first thing I do whenever I install a new version, because there's a link to it from the installer. And you click the release notes, because that way, while it's downloading and installing, you can learn what's in there. So these are the release notes for 17.14, and I'll paste that into the chat. Did that work? Yes, it did. Cool.
awesome.
So we're going to look at some of these features. We're going to look at Copilot agent mode, which is extremely interesting. Next evolution in AI-assisted development. This gives you the ability to do more than just work on individual docs, individual lines of code. We're going to see a good demo on that. MCP server support, which gives you the ability to connect to not just context in your specific project, but to hook up to servers, and you can actually create your own servers. We're going to talk about that. That's very cool. There's a very cool walkthrough in there that everybody should look at. We're going to be looking at the next edit suggestions. There's a new debugger for .NET MAUI apps, which is kind of cool, the Mono debug engine. And what I think may be a couple of cool features that I like, data tips for link expressions. That's now shown up in there. Some Git tooling. I love this one. The ability to set the default branch name from inside Visual Studio, because previously you'd have to go over to GitHub to do it and then back to Visual Studio. Now you don't have to make that context switch, which is always cool. Some new stuff in the... Sorry?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I was just going to say, we're also covering, once again, some support for things that we highlighted in other episodes, but felt like we got to talk about again, such as dynamic debugging in C++, which is a game changer for especially like game devs out there. So a lot of really cool stuff.
Yeah, and I love this one. Live preview hot reload now available at design time. That is super cool.
That is pretty cool.
Yep.
And
some more in extensibility and then the dynamic debugging. So lots of cool stuff. And
extension manager updates. That's a really nice one, just from being able to scroll through the extensions that you want with ease. Like, save yourself some time that might get lost on doing a simple task or something that should be simple. So yeah, a lot of great quality of life improvements, lots of game changer features that have been added. And we're going to talk about a lot of them. But if for those that we don't talk about, just shout out to everybody on the visualstudio.net, C++ and other language teams who spend a lot of time working on each and every one of these. But for now, we're going to start to highlight some of the big ones. So starting with probably the biggest one that I'm sure a lot of you have been anticipating for a really long time. We're going to talk about Copilot agent mode, which is now officially available in Visual Studio. So to talk about that, hi, James.
Hello. How's it going? Good to see you.
James.
Yeah.
Whoa.
while I'm not on the Visual Studio team specifically, I am representing the wonderful, amazing people that are in meetings right now that I had to hop on for, but myself. And also, where's Katie at? Because Katie's like the
Yeah.
video face
Hey,
of all
Katie.
things Asian. Hey, Katie.
I thought I could hide, but here I am. I'm excited.
That's a very dramatic entrance.
I was preparing the confetti you were talking about, Robert. I have it in my pocket somewhere, but malfunction, you know.
Excellent.
I would throw it up like right here, but then I gotta like vacuum, and that's no good at all. So
Exactly.
yeah, I like that the Visual Studio team just snuck in out of nowhere agent mode. And it's actually really exciting. Next week is build, and Ria and Andy are doing a workshop on GitHub Copilot in Visual Studio, and it shows everything about agent mode as well throughout the entirety, including next edit suggestions, like the Copilot completion, a whole bunch of stuff you're going to see today and have seen in other videos as well. But yeah, I'm super excited to show off everything that we got, the team has in store.
Sweet. So what do we got?
Let's bring it. Let's bring on my computer. Cool. So I've been working on this tiny shop application, which I like to demo because it's the tiniest of shops in the world. Here I have some products that are currently under construction because
It's so tiny I can't even see the products.
It's so tiny. It's the tiniest. Now there is it's all Aspire-ified over here. So let me dark theme this pup. Boom. And it has a back end, it has a front end, it has, like, you can see that the front end here is talking to the product back end. And we want to implement this. So like we file nude, we have like a beautiful home page, products page, beautiful Blazor application. And we want to get to work, basically. You know, we want to implement this puppy. So let's go ahead and do that. So here I am inside of Visual Studio. Now, I also want to point out that I'm on the preview version, which is the 17.14 preview 7. It's the same thing that's in stable, but I just live preview YOLO. That's all I do. That's all I know. That's what Katie told me to do. She said preview only. It's the only thing installed on my machine, but it's the same bit. So if you were on preview, you get that update. It is the 17.14 goodness there. But here, basically, here's what I have.
That answers Erwan's question.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes,
cool.
17.14 and preview 7 are the same. They're there. Okay, so the first thing here is I have my applications all Aspire-ified up here, but I have my products backend. So here's an endpoint, and you can see I have one endpoint. That looks pretty good. Let me bump it up a little bit more for everybody. I got one beautiful endpoint. And then in my store front end application, I have this products.razor, and I got basically a screen here that just shows loading and under construction. And it's just like an empty product array. So nothing at all there, basically. That's all we got. And then I also, inside this front end project, have this product service here. And this is the thing that's going to talk to my back end. So my front end, talk to my back end. I got my HTTP client that's going to be injected in, all that goodness. And right now, it's not doing anything at all. So there's like multiple projects, multiple things happening. We got front end code. We got some back end code. We got this middleware code. And the first thing we want to do is go into tools options. And I guess I have the new look and feel on, which is in preview only. So yours may not have the rounded corners here, but I also have the new settings. And under GitHub and Copilot, you'll want to enable agent mode right there. So that's the jam. You got to turn it on. It's off by default. You got to turn it on. And that's how you'll get it. And then right away, GitHub Copilot over here will go ahead and have a new mode. You'll see here there's ask an agent. I don't know if I zoom. Does it zoom when I zoom? Is it zooming?
Yeah,
it's zooming.
Whoa, it's zooming.
You can't really see the agent option when you zoom, but it's zoomed in on mouse. There we go. Now you can.
Perfect. Okay, cool. So I'm on an ultra wide. So I'm like sharing part of my screen. So I have no idea what's happening right now, what you can see, what you can't see. So there's ask an agent. So you flip over to agent, and now you're in agent mode. And up here, you can see that for all intents and purposes, there's this like total changes. Nothing has changed yet. So with GitHub Copilot agent mode, the whole idea is it works across your entire project. It's able to self-correct, so it can find errors, look at the error list here. So there's errors here. It can fix up warnings. It can understand what's happening here. It can also install NuGet packages, run commands, and it can also run these tools. and you actually see this little tools icon here. We're going to talk about tools and Katie's favorite feature, which is MCP. But tools are basically things that it can do, right? So it can do text search, it can get files, it can look at errors, it can edit files, it can run terminal commands. These are things that it can do, and you're in control. So you can always say, here's what I want it to do. So here's what we're going to do is I'm going to come over here and I'm going to, let me know if you can see the typey box. Perfect. Yes.
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 Yep.
I'm going to say, let's implement the rest of the endpoints. And I like to talk to it, it can do a code search, but I know that if I do pound here, I could do product endpoints. So I'm just going to say, hey, go implement the endpoints there, and also update our front end application. I'm just going to do products.razor, sure, with a list of products, and also update the product service with those new endpoints there. And here I can select my model. So I'm just going to use GPT-4.1 as the default. It's pretty fast. Claude's also fantastic. So what's going to happen here now, I gave it reference because I know the code base, but you don't have to necessarily. You know what I mean? You can just kind of let it do its thing and it will figure it out. It's pretty smart.
So you could tell it I just want to add endpoints. If you didn't have this particular file open right now.
Yeah. And it would create files for you too. So just go and do it, right?
Is it faster if you let it know where to look? Measurably,
context is queen, man. And context is everything. And the more context and data, you give it, the more it will know. Just like if I was talking to you, Robert, and I was like, hey, Robert, go do stuff. What do you want me to do? Right. So it can figure it out. It's going to be smart enough. If I was like, oh, go do the product endpoints, it would correlate in its mind that product endpoints need to be created. And I'll kind of show an example of that here in a second. But what's happening here is it put together a plan. A lot of things are happening. Actually, I'm not touching anything on my keyboard. See, my hands are up, but it just did a build of my project to see if everything that it just implemented, which has happened in 35 seconds, is all successfully and working here. So I'm going to walk through what happened because it all just happened very fast.
Yeah.
Okay. So, which is great. Okay. So
just speaking of context, it does show you the references as well that it's using here. So it's along the way telling you, here's what I'm looking at and here's what I'm changing and why.
Great point, Katie. Yes.
Also, before you review proper, what are you currently using to zoom in? Because people want to know.
This is just Windows Zoom.
Nice.
And then I'm using an application called Region to Share, which allows me to share a specifically 1920 by 1080 region, which looks beautiful on live stream. So just Windows Plus, and it just zooms right on in. So, but Zoom is also great. So
yeah, I've used Magnify before too, which is all right. So we've got a couple of options.
No, just boom, it's there. So yeah, great point, Katie. I appreciate it. And this is why Katie is my other co-pilot when we're developing together. And I'm her co-pilot. She's my co-pilot, and co-pilot's our co-pilot together. All the co-pilots.
So many layers.
So many layers. So the first thing I want to talk about here is there's a history. So you can add new chat windows, and this chat history gets kind of sent up with every request. So you're kind of building this chat history. So if I was to go say, okay, I want to implement an admin portal, I would probably start a new chat history here. And they'll all be saved. So you can always go back in time. But like Katie said, remember, I actually only gave it these first, I only gave it a few things, but it also looked at my store page. It also looked at my custom instructions. And this is a file that you add to your .github folder that allows you to send information with every request to Copilot to give it context. Again, context, you're going to hear me say context 1,000 times about my project and my styles, right? So I'm a big fan of modern looks and feels. This is using Bootstrap. This is a Blazor server app. I would like for you to use open API best practices on my back end. I'm using the Entity Framework core, and then some
such a time saver. I just added this file to my personal project, and I'm still working on the front end for it. And it was really annoying having to specify every prompt, Bootstrap specifically. That is what I'm using. As part of my
exactly.
Instead, it's it just knows.
It just knows. Yeah, so you want to keep that light and tight, and like, yeah, exactly like you said, Leslie, is like, just tell it. It's smart. It'll figure it out. So here's what it did. It put together a plan and it implemented it very, very fast, but it's going to implement backend endpoints for all the things. It's going to implement a front end here in the product service. And then it's going to create a table of products, and it says it's going to add buttons to view, edit, and delete. UI only, minimal for now. So, it took some liberty there. That didn't happen last time I did this demo, but I would say, like, I like 4.1 for like this very specific thing. Claude 3.5 is also one of my favorite models. It's a little bit more exploratory. It goes to work, and it kind of it's like people, if you're at a party, you're just kind of, you're all around, and Claude's like, hey, what's going on over here? What's going on over here? GPT 4.1's like, okay, I'm gonna do the thing you want me to do. So it changed these files, and then it gave me a recap of what it did. So again, this is nice. So if I tap on this product, I actually get a diff here of exactly what it changed, and it added everything here for me. So this is what is currently in my sort of selection. So we can see that it looked at the code and actually is using like the Open API best practices. It has my get, it has my posts, it has my puts, it gets my deletes. I love it. If I go on the product service over here, we can see that this is the middleware layer. So it's going through, and I'm reviewing the code just like I would here. I got the endpoint. It knows the endpoints, right? It knows the context of how to do these things. So it's putting together all this logic. And then if we look at our products, here we go. We can see that it injected the product service. It took liberty in itself to say if there's no products, put a no products found. So that's very nice of it. I didn't tell it that, but it just did it, right? And then it put a nice little table here. So that's kind of nice. And then it got rid of my task delay, because obviously that's not good. And then it called that product service for us. So it implemented everything. That we call that a one shot. Now, if I didn't like it, I could go ahead and like iterate with it. I could be like, hey, like, go change and do this thing. Don't put it in a table, put it in a grid. Actually, I like this thing. I like that thing. You can just tell it the things. It'll do whatever you want it to do. Right. So it just goes to work, and it's like, let's do this thing. So let's see here. I'm going to run my Aspire app again, and let's see what we're going here. We got this coming up. And then I go into the store.
To see, James, as you were going through the diffs, how it does even more than you asked it to do. Like, it'll start to fix things that it notices and all that. But yeah, here's our products page.
Yay!
Boom.
They're not so tiny now.
And it disabled these buttons. So these buttons are here, so that's cool. I like that. But we have full products, right? And it looks totally fine. Now I could give it like a image. I could describe how I want the products to look and iterate on it, right? But hey, I got a whole bunch of things here, which is cool. But I could do something else. Let's see. And I want to point out here, like, one thing that's cool is that it says all these tasks were done. So like, it was reading files, it was reading snippets. It's like taking a look at all the different code files. It's looking for errors. So this is really cool. So after it implemented the feature that I told it to do, it looked for errors in the code. And like Katie just said, it was trying to see if there's any errors. Now, it happened really quick, so there might have been. But right now, it's looking pretty solid. Let's do this. Let's say, let me zoom in again. Let's go ahead and say.
Whose errors? Your errors? Its errors? Who made those errors?
Both.
Wow.
Yeah, both. Yeah, okay. Totally. It's not always going to get it right the very first time. I mean, I'm not going to get it right the very first time. And you let Robert code, he's not going to get it right for at least the entire day. I'm just saying. He'll get it eventually. So it's going to try to self-heal. So if it does something wrong, so for example, maybe it forgot a using statement or an import, it would figure out how to self-correct that. Yeah. Let's add a details page here, and only have one button to view details to navigate to it. Right now, I'm just gonna be like, I gotta go do this thing. Now I give it very little information here. In fact, I'm just saying, like, go do it, right? And now what's happening is, like, it's looking at all the pages. It's like, I got to figure out how do I navigate? Like, where am I navigating? What am I doing? It's like reading a bunch of files. It's like, does this file? What about this file? What about, does this file exist? Like, I didn't even tell it what details, but it has the context, right? So it knows here that it needs to create a product details page from scratch. And it's going to add it in. And then it's going to update the product razor page. And if I zoom out here, you can see it's all kind of happening in real time. So if I drop this down, and now it's building, right? So kind of there. That's pretty fast. So it's gone ahead and it removed the other buttons. And then we have an on click that says go to view details. And then down here, it uses the navigation manager to go to products. And now if I look here, here's my product details.razor. Cool. It's a brand new file. There it is. And it's going to load the product, and it's going to call my backend, and it's going to load the product details. It looks beautiful. Let's keep. You can always keep and undo. And I want to also point this out. This is pretty cool. I'm a big fan of keep. I'm a big keeper. Always be keeping, always be committing. Commits are free. You can just whatever. So if I was in a good state, commit. Just always be committing. Branch, commit. Roll back those commits. Commits are free. You don't want to be jamming with Copilot for like 2 hours, and then you're like, I have gone. This isn't even a tiny shop anymore. It's a pet store application now. Something has gone wrong. So always be committing. But also, I want to point this out. The team. I mean, I love how the team kind of implement this. But at the end of each area, it creates this checkpoint. You can roll back. Right. It's kind of like it committed itself in a way. So it creates this checkpoint between every interaction. So you can kind of roll back, which is super duper neat. Yeah, I'm just going to run it again. And I could have hot reloaded, I guess, but I think I added new files. So things. Yeah. And Michael says always be committing ABCs.
And I feel like one thing that we kind of talk about is how the agent is what we say self-healing and iterative. You'll kind of see that as the changes come in. Sometimes it'll correct itself and do things like that. But along the way, it's always asking, do you want to keep this? Do you want to undo it? Like, here's a checkpoint. It's very smart, but it still likes to keep you in control, because at the end of the day, it is the Copilot. It's not, leading the show, even though it's super cool.
Exactly. Totally. Yeah. Now we have this. It added a back button. I didn't ask it to, but it did it. Let's do something crazy. Let's do one more final thing. I have no idea if it's going to work, but let's just tell it over here. Let's say, okay, first I'll say, thank you so much. This is delightful. Yes. And
You're so nice to Copilot. I feel like I'm pretty demanding sometimes.
No, only when the CSS is wrong. That's when I get upset. I'm going to say, let's make the products.razor look stunning. Maybe a grid, maybe some hover effects. I don't know. Now I'm going to sonnet this thing. I'm going to sonnet 3.5 it. That's my other favorite model. I like it for a heavy UI work where it wants to just do some stuff. And you can switch between models anytime. And you don't like how 4.1 did it, and then you can switch to Sonnet and do it, whatever, it doesn't matter. And each of them have different speed and different capabilities. Sonnet's a little bit slower in some of the details, but again, it's going to go look at the product details and the products, and it's going to put together a plan here. So it's going to, I don't know what it's going to do. Let's see. It's going to use cards for products. It's going to update the bootstrap. It's going to update the product razor with the card-based layout. That's cool. Inside of here, it's doing stuff. And this is going to kind of continue to iterate. So it's going to, we call this cooking. Just like if you were to put it in a slow cooker here, it's going to cook. It's going to do its thing. And you can see in the very bottom, it's a little hard to see, but you can, there's a little line basically that's going here. And it's cooking. So it's going. Cooking's happening. Just let it cook. So this is a good time when you have a big project and you're really vibing out. You just go make a coffee. Oh, it's already done. So I guess you don't even have time to make a coffee, and you just go. So I don't know.
Are those comments persisted? Let's say you made all these changes, quit Visual Studio, and then wanted to use that as documentations, but you forgot to capture it in real time. Is that all persisted anywhere?
Yes, it is all persisted in this dropdown, basically. Yeah.
Okay,
yes.
Cool.
So, well, let's see here how the let's see if I got completely off the rails and if if it's actually going to build and compile or not. Let's see. Where's my product razor? Oh, okay. So it looked like it didn't finish this. This can
I feel
happen.
I'm watching
sometimes.
a professional vibe coder at work.
So I'm going to tell it. I'm just going to tell it what to do. So I'm going to say, hey, it looks like the product's razor didn't update for some reason. So I'm just going to tell it to go. So it might have just like given up. It was like, well, you said I wanted to go drink a coffee, so I'm just going to go drink a coffee now and like go do it, do the thing. So in its mind, Copilot was getting ready to go do that thing, and then it decided not to. So anyways, it's going to finish the code now. So okay, cool. So I just tell it what to do. I don't know. Just it'll figure it out. It's so smart.
There are a couple people in the chat asking about like what different things you could get away with asking Copilot. Like, can you ask it to I never know how to say this word. Paginate. Paginate your like your list of items, for example.
Yeah. Yeah. You just do whatever you want to. I don't know. Just tell it. It's smart. And the other cool part is that you can like give it documentation. We'll talk about MCP support. You can do a bunch of stuff. It's smart. You know what I mean? So it'll fit. Look at that. Oh, well, it put a header on it. Wow.
Ooh.
Wow.
Yeah.
Huge improvement. Yeah. That looks awesome.
Huge improvement. Wow. Ship it to production because it's amazing, right? Now I can iterate on it. I can go back. Maybe I don't use Bootstrap. Maybe I want to use Blazor. Maybe I want to use something else. Like it'll just do it. Just tell it what to do. But also like, see how I iterated with it? I didn't get mad that it didn't finish the code and there was an error. I don't know. I'll just tell it, go do it. Go do it. Just be patient.
Here's a good question.
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, does using these features eat up tokens, or how many tokens?
Yeah, you can go into your Copilot consumption. I don't know what information it shows, so I'm not going to bring up mine, but you can look at that and you can see how much things are consuming for different things. And different models have different implications. So these are the standard models for each request back and forth. But obviously, like anything you're doing with AI, different completion models and different chats and different things will have different implications. But I'm not like an expert in like the billing structure of GitHub Copilot. Katie?
Yeah, I'm also not an expert. I know that there have been some recent changes. I would go look at the GitHub website to get up to date on those. But like James said, there are ways for you to see your consumption within Visual Studio.
Yeah. Boom. Anyways, that's agent mode. Amazing. Boom.
That's amazing.
We did it.
Now, Katie, you want to talk about MCP stuff?
Sure, we can get into some MCP stuff.
Because I talked about these tools down here, but Katie, what are MCPs?
So
what does that even stand for? We're using acronyms again.
I was going to say, we're always getting into our acronyms. MCP really stands for Model Context Protocol. And I stole this a little bit from the MCP website, but I love this metaphor that it's kind of a universal adapter. So where you can use a universal adapter to connect your physical devices to other physical devices, you can use MCP to basically connect to other tools and data sources that Copilot wouldn't otherwise have access to without having to rewrite all of these different custom connectors.
Exactly.
Great.
Yeah. It's in the name. It's a protocol. It's developed by Anthropic and has been adopted by almost everyone at this point. So you can use it in like VS Code, Visual Studio, Claude Desktop, a bunch of things. And we're going to have very exciting MCP announcements next week at Build. So get ready. Saddle up. It's good.
Yeah, and just to get a sense of like what life was like pre-MCP, what were some of the kind of roadblocks that developers might end up with when trying to like create an agent or some sort of AI-powered tool that needs to connect to other spots?
Well, you think of it like this, so like with GitHub Copilot, right? So I have my Monkey application here, and with MCPs, like Katie said, it's a protocol to help provide context, but also take actions for you. You can think of it sort of as REST, but for talking to LLMs in a way. So GitHub Copilot is talking to the LLM, and it has a set of tools or actions it can perform, right? So it can get an issue. Oh, these are the other ones that I have. So sorry. It can get text files. It can search files. It can get errors. It can find files. It can run commands. and things like that. You can also install extensions, which extend GitHub Copilot natively. So it could, like, fetch a URL and go get documentation. It could do things like that. The problem is, like Katie just described, is like you would then have to go build that implementation for every single tool on the planet that is using these. But MCP standardizes that approach, right? So like, what are some examples, Katie, of like different MCP servers and like what you might use them for?
So I think an easy example is GitHub itself, GitHub's MCP server. So from within Copilot chat here, we could ask about a specific repository, for example. We could ask it what issues are in that repository, and even have it create issues for us if we're trying to implement something. Yeah,
so if I came down, what are some trending issues on the .NET/MAUI repo, question mark, right? So previously, like, I don't know, how is anything supposed to know about the .NET MAUI repo, right? Like GitHub Copilot doesn't know necessarily. I guess I could try to like figure it out, like what it is. How could it can make like scrape the web, but it doesn't have like deep integration. So what I just did is I have the GitHub MCP server configured in my project, and I'll show that. And I just asked it, I said, what are the trending issues on the .NET MAUI repo? And GitHub Copilot, instead of going and trying to figure stuff out by itself, it's saying, hey, there is a tool available in the GitHub MCP server that you have configured that can go call a command, which is to go sort the comments, descending, get 5 of them, and I'm going to allow it to do that. So I'm giving it permission to go run a tool that I've set up on here. So here, for example, here's what it's done. Is it gone off and it's summarized everything for me and given me links to the issues, right? So for example, imagine I was working on this MAUI application and I ran into a bug. I guess I would open up a browser. I would go figure it out. I go, oh, do this thing or that thing. But in this case, I would just ask GitHub Copilot to go see if there's any issues related to even what's in my stack, like what's in my problem or an issue that I'm running into. And it can go search the .NET MAUI repo or any repo to do that, right? Which is cool. So I could even say what open issues are in the repo for this project, right? Question mark. Now here it's going to go off and it is looking at my repo. So monkey vibes, and it knows about my monkey vibes because I've told it that this is the repo that it is. And I know that the Copilot team is working on figuring out, looking at the Git stuff to automatically figure that out for context, but context is everything. So I just tell it, hey, this is the repo, this is where it lives, right? So I'm just going to allow it, and you can allow every single session all the time, things like that. But here it's like, here's one issue, here's a link to it. It's to make a list of monkeys. So that's what it wants me to do, basically, right? So
yeah, I think just to add on to what you're saying, James, just giving people more opportunity to get some of this stuff done from within the IDE so that they don't have to continually context switch and go back and forth is good time saved at the end of the day.
Yeah. And there's all sorts of different MCP servers. So you can connect to like databases, file systems. You can do Playwright automation to test your website. And what's cool here is like, it knows about the context of your application, it knows the context of the model. It can put that all together and it can then summarize things from different places. So imagine I came here and I said, all right, this is a monkey application that I'm building with MAUI, right? And it's just file new. So imagine Katie's like, oh, we're jamming on this. And she's like, oh, I have this great idea. And Katie's like, you got to add a camera control to take pictures of monkeys of this application. I'm like, Katie, that sounds like a big feature. I have no idea how to do it. I could say, go research how to add a camera control to this application so I can take photos of objects and share it with friends, and go create a GitHub issue in detail of how to do this so I can work on it later on this repo, right? So it's going to go off and it's going to use the knowledge of my project, of the structure, of the LLM itself. And what it's doing here is it is basically going off and it's saying, here's the owner, here's the repo, here's what I want it to do. And it's going to give this huge requirement of everything that I want to do. And I'm just going to say, let's do it. Now I've created a personal access token. So I've done this here. And now I can just tap on this. Do I want to open this issue? I'm going to open it up. Boom. I don't know. Here's all the thing. Here's documentation samples, MAUI essentials. I mean, I just saved like all the time in the world. You know what I mean? Like it did the research for me. Now I could have connected it to like web search. There's a Bing search. There's Perplexity AI. There's all sorts of things that you can connect. Like there's a bajillion MCP servers out there, right? That you can go and connect to out there. So this is amazing, right? And how I configure this is I open this mcp.json file. Now this file can be in a few places. Right now, let me open up this folder. Where is the thing? There it is. Where is the thing that I need to look at? Okay. So
I love the jingles.
Gotta have one. So I open this up in both VS and VS Code. So I have a .vs code folder and it's mcp.json. I could put it in my .vs folder. I could also put it directly right here, but I would call it .mcp.json. That's the only difference. And Visual Studio looks at that file and says, what do you want to do? So I went off and on the GitHub MCP server repository, it just tells you how to configure it. So it's running a command, which is a Docker container. So it's running on my local machine. It's going to pass in my personal access token here. And that's how it's going to know. And that personal access token gives it permission to do things. Now, I've also added a Monkey MCP server, which is an MCP server that I created in C#, which is very nifty if I'm creating a Monkey application. Now, this could be like looking at databases. It could be looking at schemas. It could be talking to my backend. It could be doing anything. I can use this Monkey MCP server and everywhere. So I could go off and I could say, get me a list of monkeys from the Monkey MCP server and list them out here and tell me about the data structure in general. I'll see what it does. So yeah, oh, is it not running? Running for permission and command. It's going to try to run. It should be running. Let's see. Here's my Docker. Should already be running. I don't know if that's actually what I wanted to do or not. Sometimes it's, yeah.
Oh, while that's troubleshooting is happening, there's a question in the chat about, are the options that are in the GitHub chat either the Thunder icon, which I'm assuming is referring to the agent list, or agent mode, or the wrench, are they related to GitHub Actions or the Visual Studio application itself?
Oh, in the wrench down here?
Yeah.
Yes,
I think that's
a good question. I'm going to reboot that. I know exactly what happened is that I didn't have my tools selected. So these tools come from GitHub Copilot, any extensions, and the MCP servers here. So that's what those wrenches are for. It's basically what the agent can call. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to run this again. I'll say, get me a list of monkeys from the Monkey MCP server and display them here. And now let's see if it does it. Okay. Perfect. Okay. I didn't have the Monkey MCP server running, so that's why I didn't have it selected in the tool, so it didn't know what to do. So it actually tried to start my Monkey MCP server for me, which was already running. So anyways, we have this here. So here's all my monkeys, and I could say, what is the data structure of that? And then let's see if it does it. Yep. Okay. So it's going to then tell me. So imagine I was connecting to a database. I'm authenticated. I now know my data structure that's here. Up here's what it would look like. Amazing. I could say, can you go update? Actually, go get me the GitHub issues to implement the monkey list for this repo. See if we can go find it, because I started a new thread. So let's see if we can go find it here. It's going to go look for created, allow this time, run it. Let's see if it finds it. And cool, there it is. All right, so I'm going to say for issue 1, can you add a comment to tell me in detail of how to implement it based on this monkey data you have. Right. So again, I'm just going to say how would you implement this? Maybe I don't have time to implement it right now. So
yeah, we do have to move on to some of the other cool features too.
That's true. I'm going
MCP is great as well, but also I'm sure it's going to get a lot of love at Build next week.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of like it in a nutshell, right? So I was connecting to data sources. I'm talking to GitHub. I'm doing this stuff. And now at this point, I'm ready to implement, go into agent mode and do all the things. So that is the TLDR of all the things.
Woo!
That's amazing.
It's all the stuff. It's all the stuff. There's my 40-minute soapbox of all the things.
I loved it. And we're excited for everyone to try it as well and leave us your feedback. We're always open to your feedback, and we want to continue to improve agent mode, the MCP experience, all the things. So please don't be shy. Let us know how you like them.
All right.
Cool.
Thanks for sharing. Yeah,
Thanks, everyone.
Cool.
Good big stuff, definitely. So
In a tiny shop.
Yeah, in a tiny shop. It's so cute. And yeah, I'm sure we're gonna hear more about it at Build. Definitely check out that stream or see it in person if that's where you're gonna be. So check it out. All right. And yeah, thank you, Katie and James.
Thanks, guys. That was fantastic.
Of course, thank you both.
Sweet. All right, so we're gonna keep the Copilot train going a little bit because now we're joined by Simona, who's going to be sharing more about next edit suggestions, which recently made its debut to VS. So hi, Simona.
Hi, Leslie. Hi, Robert. And hi, everyone.
How you doing?
Oh, can y'all hear me?
Yeah, yes. You sound great.
Okay, sorry. So, thanks for everyone watching, staying up late at the stream. My name is Simona. I'm a product manager in the Visual Studio GitHub Copilot team. And I mainly work on the Copilot completions and next edit suggestions. So super excited to share this with you. So James has done this really cool demo about agent mode MCP, which happens in the chat window. And then I mainly work on Copilot inside the editor space. So how Copilot can help you while you're actively writing code. And I'll go ahead and share my screen. Pull it up. Share screen. Cool. Great. So many of you probably have already tried out the original or the traditional GitHub Copilot code completions, which are the gray text that will pop up while you are writing your code and auto complete your code. But developing is not just writing new code all the time. You also need to make edits to the existing code you have, and that's next edit suggestions is gonna come in the story and help you out. So next edit suggestions, or NES for short, will leverage the previous edits you made in this file and then predict what is the next likely edit to come, whether it's deletion, insertion, or a mix of both. So let's take a look at this toy project. I have a 2-dimensional point class here, and I want to refactor it into a 3-dimensional point. So I will rename this from point to point 3D, and boom. Automatically, NES guesses my intention and offers to help me finish this refactoring. So something you might notice is it has this red and green diff, which indicates it can also do deletion. And also you notice there's a tab to jump hint bar over here. So NES not only provide you, NES are not limited to your current cursor locations. So like completions are limited to this, you can only complete here. But NES can pop up anywhere in your file to support you. So first I'll hit tab to jump to the location of this edit, and then I can tab again to accept it. And then once I accept the first one, more NES, relevant NES will pop up. So I'll tab again, and okay, pops up again to change this get distance function as well, tab. So just through this like tab flow, NES helped me to refactor this entire point class.
Great.
So yeah, so that's one toy project, and you might wonder, oh, how NES actually works in a more real world scenario. So let me pull up eShop. So eShop is a really real world like project. It's also a e-commerce website, .NET completion built with .NET Aspire. So I also show NES in eShop and refactoring this catalog item inside this Blazor component library. So this part, it provides a catalog item for the front end, like what should we display on the website. Cool. So currently the catalog item has basic stuff like the name of the catalog, description, price, and then I want to add another field here to show if it's currently in stock. So I'll add full in stock. And then I also want to update the catalog item object. So I'm clicking over here, and then I want to note that clicking is something really important for NES, that it will take your cursor location into consideration as well, and then figure out, oh, what edit should I give you based on the current location you're at. So automatically, it also helped me add this in stock boolean here out again to the tab flow, and then also ask me, do you want to set it to false? Maybe not now, so I can hit escape to dismiss that. And then I'll click over here and again, help me to add it automatically. So I don't have to copy paste or write the repetitive thing again and again. And then now I finished refactor the catalog item. I'll go to this catalog service file, which is using the catalog item. And let's say I want to change this get catalog item objects. So I only want to get in stock objects. So I'll type in stock here. Okay. And see here, the gray text, automatically NES be like, oh, you already changed the catalog item, and let's use that into your current file. So super smart, know your edit history, and I can tab again to jump and tab to accept. And lastly, I want to update this razor file as well. Currently, I have the name and price. And let's see if NES is here to help. Okay, maybe it's taking another minute to think about, oh, but it's here, take a minute to think, but it's like, oh, we need to update the razor file as well to use this newly added in stock variable. Okay, cool. So that is next edit suggestions. I hope you are excited. So NES is really strong that it helps you stay inside your current editing flow. So all the changes, it suggests you are logical. So you don't have to like be outside of your current thinking flow. And it can be really good for many scenarios like refactoring, renaming, like the repetitive tasks, adding or removing variables from your methods, things like that. So currently NES is opt-in. So if you want to try it out, go to Tools, Options, and then under GitHub Copilot, and then Copilot completions, we have Enable Next Edit Suggestions. So please turn it on and give it a try today. We're still at this early iteration stage for NES, and we would love, love, love to hear your feedback. So give it a try, and then if you have any feedback, please tell us on the developer community for Visual Studio. And yeah.
Great.
That's cool. That is cool.
I like that a lot. I mean, it's a very easy flow. Just
yeah, you don't have to do anything.
Nice.
Just coding, and then Copilot will jump in to help you out.
Yeah, it's great. Like no effort required. I like that it's trying to cover all of your bases, especially because when you make a change like that, it can be easy to forget all the places where you need to go make set updates.
It helps with the repetitive stuff, so you can spend your time on the more important, like logical updates or the important new things you want to work on.
Yeah. I think if I had like one wish list item for NES, I think it'd be cool if like, I understand it would be maybe a little noisy to hop between files, but if there was like an indicator in the solution panel of like, maybe gives like a little icon next to files like, hey, you probably want to consider an update here. Like that might be cool.
Yeah, exactly. So you can jump from file to file easily. Yeah.
That'd be sweet. But yeah, thanks for sharing, Simona. Really cool. And
yes, thank you for having me.
Pretty organic. Yeah. Thanks for being here, Simona.
Bye.
All right. Cool stuff. So we talked about Copilot a lot, especially the latest, greatest bits. So now we're going to move on into the realm of C++. And kicking us off, we're joined by David Lee, who you've probably seen on this channel before. Anytime we talk about C++, his awesomeness is here. Hey, David.
Hey, Robert. Hey, David. Hey, Leslie. How's it going?
We're good.
Great. How you doing?
Great to be back. Great to share the latest and the most exciting thing we have in game development.
Great. Yeah. So what are we talking about in the realm of game development?
Yeah, so some of you might have seen our announcement at GDC and or watched a previous episode, but I'm here to share we have updated the C++ debugger so that if you're a game developer and you're building with, and you have an optimized build, you can finally have full debuggability for your optimized builds. So that means no more recompiling every time you find a bug. And of course, for those really tricky bugs, you don't have to, rebuild, launch your game, and then go play your game until that bug happens. Yeah, so we finally have it, and it's called C++ Dynamic Debugging.
Sweet. Let's check it out. And also, heads up, if you want a more in-depth learning about how cool dynamic debugging is, we actually did an episode of it pretty recently, a couple weeks ago. So check it out.
So here
I just posted the link.
Perfect.
Yeah. So here we have an Unreal Engine game. And this is the layer shooter. So as you can see in a little corner, there is 60 FPS, right? So we're launching a game, the game is playing. This is a fully optimized build running. And when we hit our breakpoints, one of the things that we can see is that, okay, so when we hit our breakpoints, we can take a look at our call stack. So this is a new de-optimized tag that indicates that this particular frame is de-optimized. So what this means is we only de-optimize frames that you care about. And because I have set breakpoints there, we'll automatically load the de-optimized version of your code.
Cool. And before that, you had to do that manually, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah. And so, for example, I can step in here, and now we're at a force inline function, something that is just totally not possible before. This is only possible because at this moment in time, for these de-optimized frames, we're looking in particular your binary that is de-optimized. So something else we can do is we can do set next statements and then proceed with our debugging session. And of course, here you can see that the variable is optimized away. Something that has plagued a lot of game developers in the past, and that is because, in particular, this specific frame has not been de-optimized. Now, what you can do is you can right-click, and then you can go to de-optimize on next entry. So when you click that, the next time your game runs, so if you press continue here, you'll see that your frames have been de-optimized. So before, you can see the different variables that has been optimized away. In this case, you can see all your locals. That is, you can see the information in there without recompiling your game, setting pragma optimize on or off. Yeah, so we store all of these breakpoints in a breakpoint group. So whenever you want, you can actually go ahead and just delete all these de-optimized breakpoints. If I disable the initial breakpoint we set and we hit continue, you can now see that our game is back to full frames. So this is it.
That's awesome. This seems like an absolute time saver because obviously, ideally, you want your code to be optimized, especially in a gaming setting, perf-wise and things. So it's cool that as a developer, you don't have to go through the extra trouble of trying to de-optimize something that you ultimately don't want to stay that way. It becomes a temporary automatic thing while you're debugging, which is cool.
Like when I was chatting with game developers, there's been a lot of wishes to not constantly use Pragma Optimize to get rid of optimizations. I've even heard from some developers that they had checked in Pragma Optimize into the code. So hopefully with this, with our new C++ dynamic debugging, game developers out there will no longer need to spend a lot of time. We're very confident that this will drastically improve your iteration times. No more chasing down a bug and then having to recompile to debug. So yeah, find out more. We have a link, which is aka.ms/dynamic debugging. Please read more about our how this feature works in the blog. And of course, there's accompanying documentation on Microsoft Learn.
Sweet. Well, David, thanks as always. Yeah, that is definitely, seems like a time saver for game devs out there. So check that one out.
Yeah, and you don't have to do that constant context switch from optimized to de-optimized and back again. You just run your app, look at your code, fix it, and keep going.
Yeah, it's a huge time saver.
Yep.
Love it. Well, thanks, David. And as he mentioned, go check out the MS Learn docs. And as we mentioned, go check out the full 20, 30-minute episode all about dynamic debugging. So in C++.
Well,
thanks,
we'll see you next time.
Yeah, definitely see you next time.
Thanks, David.
All right, so we are now left with last but certainly not least, we're going to be talking about our final feature for today, still in the C++ realm, and we're going to be talking about some CMake stuff. So joining us for that is Sanam. Hi, Sanam.
Hi, how are you doing?
Good. How are you doing?
Good.
Cool. So what's new in C++ CMake space?
Yeah, so we have a lot of exciting new updates for C++, especially for CMake. We've been working to improve the core IntelliSense support for CMake so that it is able to access all the latest CMake modules. And we've also added support to C++ and C# files to automatically generate document comments. So excited to show a little bit of that in Visual Studio today.
All right, let's check it out.
Cool. So yeah, we have a lot of updates for the C++ language that sort of help with those quality of life day-to-day programming tasks. So now when you're in a C++ file, you're able to invoke Copilot using your generated documentation format. So in this case, I have XML formats. And so I can just type // in front of this function, and Copilot chat will actually invoke based on the function's contents to provide me with inline suggestions for my documentation. And this can be super helpful when you are generating, wanting to improve code readability for the future, or working in large projects where you're trying to document new features you're adding or new functionality you're adding. And this is sort of compatible with any sort of doc comment generation that you may have, and in C++ and C#. So we're excited to have that available to developers today.
Yeah, cool. It's super nice. I mean, doc comment generation in general, or just having to write doc comments is such a busy work item.
Yeah.
It's nice that you can kind of just pass it off on Copilot and it'll do a good job
and you can just focus
everything
on reviewing it too. So in this case, I can sort of tweak it if I need to, or update the parameters. So it's all easily accessible to you.
Yeah, I like it. I was able to figure out it was specifically sorting via bubble sort, which not the sort that I would go with performance wise necessarily.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I appreciate that it acknowledges it.
And then I can edit it based on that. So yeah, it's really great to have this integrated into your project so that you're able to sort of automate some of this less interesting programming task, like you said.
Yeah, sweet. So available in C++ and C#.
Yes.
Excellent.
And sort of what I touched on earlier is we also have added, we've been really committed to improving core C++ functionality, which includes CMake support. And CMake is a cross-platform build system where you can specify via CMake list.txt your build instructions. And so that's really reproducible across different OSs. So if I were to target my WSL machine, for example, it's all able to be very easily reproducible via CMake. And so we've actually added support for IntelliSense. So you can have information on your CMake modules available within Visual Studio. And what CMake modules are is they're like predefined scripts that CMake can invoke. And if you want to learn more, you can sort of see their documentation that they have online. And you can invoke that within your build system. So if I type include, now IntelliSense will actually have the knowledge to invoke different CMake modules. So there's a bunch of different options here, and that's sort of like easily accessible within core Visual Studio functionality. And so, for example, if I wanted to click CMake, CMake Find Frameworks, it's able to detect that, and I can even sort of like hover over it and find out more information on what exactly this module does. So this one's a helper module to find OSX frameworks. So it's great to have this available in Visual Studio for C++ developers now.
Awesome. So none of that was there prior.
Yeah.
You just kind of had to figure it out on your own.
Yeah, you would have to sort of like go to the kitware documentation, figure out what your modules were, learn a little bit more about that in place. And so now it's all integrated into Visual Studio for ease of access for CMake developers.
Awesome. Yeah. Again, time saver.
Yeah.
That seems really good.
Yeah.
So,
and CMake
yeah.
can be very complicated. So it's good to have, tightly integrated CMake support in Visual Studio. So
yeah, I agree. I think the syntax of it sometimes can not always be the most intuitive too. So like having that helper is nice, definitely.
Yeah.
Cool.
Very cool.
Cool. Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you. Good stuff. I mean, like it's really, for me, my favorite kinds of features are the smaller ones that just are good quality of life improvements. Cause it's like something that, cause like those couple seconds that you're taking to like go look up the documentation for something, or trying to come up with a good summary for your methods and your classes and stuff when you're writing doc comments, that takes up time. It adds up. So yeah.
Totally
you just not think about it. Yeah. So great. Because it's not always the most glamorous thing to do when you're in development mode. So
yeah.
Cool.
Anything to improve that quality of life.
I agree. Sweet. And yeah, so thank you, Sinem.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sinem.
All right.
Ooh,
so that
was amazing.
Yeah, that was a whirlwind of content, and there's going to be a lot more to come. Although, hey, David, if you nod in the background, I do have a question for you because it was about dynamic debugging. It was like right when you hopped off. Cool, he's nodding. All right. Hi, David. Before we wrap up, I had a quick question from the chat about, does this feature work if you're debugging with limited sources, like if you're debugging an executable on a client machine?
So this should work for all for remote debugging scenarios. It doesn't seem like the question that you have would be constrained by the feature, so I assume it works. But please do test it out and let us know. The only thing to keep in mind, there are some overhead constraints. For example, because we're building a both optimized and unoptimized binary, it essentially doubles your file output size. So that is definitely one thing to keep in mind. However, other than that, it should work. It should just work.
Cool. Thanks for that. Cool. All right. So then that officially concludes our episode. So thank you so much for checking it out. Shout out to the Visual Studio team and all the language teams for putting in a lot of time and effort into these really cool features that many of you have been asking for a while.
And the demos they just showed too.
Yeah. And thank you everybody for the demos. Thank you for everyone who is currently working on VS or the language spaces or has in the past worked on BS in the language spaces, because yeah, good stuff. And hopefully there's a lot more to come. So definitely stay tuned for build. I'm sure you're going to be seeing some of these features pop up during that. But the best way you can check out these features is by playing with them yourself. So if you haven't already, make sure to download 17.14 GA. All of this stuff is available now. It's in the wild. Go check it out. Share your feedback. Go to the developer community to share that feedback. And yeah, we'll do our best to create even more cool features in the future. So until next time.
If there's anything you want us to cover in more depth on Visual Studio Toolbox, let us know.
Yep, definitely.
Maybe more deep dives.
Absolutely. So yeah, don't be afraid to share all that. And until next time, happy coding, y'all. Thanks.
All right. Bye, everybody.